Thank you. I would like to invite to come forward Donna Bowers with the Daily Living Centers and Nelson Miller with the Daily Living Centers. Nelson is the CFO and Donna is the Vice President, acting president at this moment. Then I would also like to ask Jeff Robbins to step down. He is with United Way of Central Oklahoma. And they are, if y'all can kind of turn this way, and that way they can kind of see y'all. This way that everybody can see us at home, too. I'll try to keep it where people can hear what I'm saying. The reason that I've asked them to come down this evening, we are in memory of Bill Weaver. He is the president of Daily Living Centers. And Bill had passed away August 20th of this year. Bethany is so proud to have the Daily Living Centers within our city boundaries. The Daily Living Centers provide services for senior adults and also transportation services. This is very important for the seniors and also for caregivers. So they are here this evening to accept a proclamation for Mr. Bill Weaver. Whereas Bill Weaver was born on August 6, 1937 in McAlester, Oklahoma, and whereas Bill was the president of Daily Living Centers, the first adult daycare in Oklahoma, was affectionately known as the father of adult day services. And whereas Bill worked with the legislature and agencies to develop programs to benefit seniors and persons with disabilities, and whereas thousands of frail seniors were able to remain in their homes because of Bill's work, and whereas Bill was an inspiration for many, an unwavering advocate for adult day services, as well as a friend who will be missed. Therefore, I, Brian Taylor, hereby declare November 15th, 2016 as Bill Weaver Day in the city of Bethany, in appreciation for his energy and commitment to the field of adult day services, as well as his focus on the mission of Daily Living Centers. Given under my hand and the seal of the city of Bethany, Oklahoma, this 15th day of November 2016, Mayor Brian Taylor.
Thank you all very much for this presentation. Bill would be very honored to know that you care about him and his work. Thank you.
This is November 15th. The Bethany City Council will now open. Please stand. We'll have an invocation by Jeff Knapp, and then I flag salute.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gifts that you've given us, for watching over us on a daily basis, for caring for our people and our organizations in our city. Help to guide us as we make decisions tonight and every night and every day. In your name we pray. Amen.
Salute. Pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda is the consent docket, 1A, B, and C. Do any of these need to be pulled and discussed? If not, may I have a motion, please?
I move approval.
Second?
Second.
Please cast your vote. Our second item is the call to the public. If anyone in the audience would like to come forward, please do so now. We'll move on to item number 3. It's approval of Resolution 1422, adopting a policy concerning acceptance of gifts and donations by the City of Bethany, Oklahoma. JD?
Thank you very much. This issue came up recently in discussion. Can you all hear me okay? Came up recently regarding gifts and when we have. Is that better? Can you hear me now? How about we try this? Okay, one more time. This issue came up recently when we were having discussions regarding some fixtures that the city had received as gifts. These were wonderful donations, but the question came up: what are we going? How do we move on beyond what we currently have? And I know I'm speaking kind of at a high level there. What the issue is when we have items that are gifted to the city and there is no follow-up or no information as far as how do we dispose of those, what do we wind up doing? And so we had to go back and contact the owners. The owners that had donated that were still alive that we knew of were very gracious about it and asked us to use the gift in other locations in our city. But as I said, the bigger question was, well, what do we do the next time we have something that is gifted to us, and what do we do if we have to put a new highway in or a new street come in? How do we dispose of those? So this has been drafted for your consideration. That takes into a number of considerations. It puts all the authority in your hands on how we deal with it. It does put, if it's cash, the gifts would be accepted graciously. And this also gives guidance to staff as well. When someone wishes to donate and wishes to ask us about it, then we can share with them what our policy is. It also allows for a consistency. It lets you to be able to determine if you feel like if it's artwork, if it's appropriate in the location. Maybe you don't think it is appropriate in that location. I've also seen in cities I've been with before where donations were given. It was well intended, but they would want to memorialize a particular person, and perhaps the sign wasn't really fitting for a public place. And so, again, this gives the authority back to you all, and it makes clear that if someone wishes to give a gift, we really appreciate it, but it sets forth a mechanism for them to do that, and they would come to you to present their idea, and you could approve it or put whatever strings you would like to. And then finally, probably the biggest point of all of that is that it sets forth that once the gift is given, it's given, and it's the city's, and it's not. There's not an expectation there. I've also seen situations where a gift is given, but then the expectation is that, well, the city's going to replace it if it's damaged, or and so you wind up getting into costs then as well. So that's the premise behind it, and I'll stand for any questions that you might have.
If you don't mind, on the resolution, if you starting with in the middle of the page where it says the following policy, and then skip down the next line where it says unrestricted gifts, and then where it talks about restricted gifts.
Yes.
Can you discuss that a little bit, or maybe the city attorney would need to kind of talk about those different?
Well, I can tell you what restricted gifts would be. They would be things that were given with certain conditions attached to them. For instance, that you spend it on certain amount of things, or stocks and bonds that they never be cashed, being reinvested. Those would be some restrictions that gives you the authority to refuse those if you think the restrictions are burdensome, let's say.
Okay, thank you.
So you can give money, let's say, to the Air Queen. Is that considered, that's just a budget account? That's not saying that the money is specifically to be used for the upholstery in the plane?
Well, I think the council, if I'm not mistaken, created a special fund for those monies, and you have authorized the city to accept those donations already.
Okay, but I'm saying if something
Yeah,
like.
once it
something
goes
like
into that fund, that's what it's used
Okay.
for. But that, you approved that by creating a special fund for that. Just like if someone dedicated money for the cemetery, there is a perpetual maintenance account already in effect for the cemetery, so that would just go into that account without any council action.
Then what happens if you receive more donations than is needed for that budget fund, or for that designated fund? I don't know if designated is the word I should be using, restricted or unrestricted. I don't know what the proper term is in this case.
I guess maybe I might suggest that, again, those are, if it's a dollar donation, it comes to you all, and then you all can, if they wish to continue donating even after it's completed, then you all could determine and designate then at that time. 'Cause it would be-
But we don't have restrictions on those donations like we would in a nonprofit organization. I think it's where I'm going with this. Because I know in a nonprofit organization, when you make a designated donation and it's not used for that, an example would be that I make a donation for the singles ministry, and then they don't need it for there anymore because, heaven forbid, they're not going to do it for singles ministry. Then that money stays in that account forever because it can't be used for anything else. So that's my question
I
here.
think that would be true of the fund for the restoration of the airplane. That money would stay in that fund for installation, maintenance, whatever might happen.
And that would have an ongoing maintenance?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
One thing that I like about this, JD, is I can think of an example. Everybody here has heard me tell a little bit about my experience in Moore after the tornado. Well, one of the things was they did not have a mechanism, did not have a funding place to accept donations. FEMA told us that they were losing about $100,000 a day from people who wanted to donate, but they didn't have a way to do that for the first few days. This, theoretically could be set up or used for that purpose, to accept those funds in a legal manner. Just an example that I saw there.
We have even, I remember several years ago, there was a fire in an apartment house that part of the family died in the fire. And through the fire department, a special fund was created to pay for the funerals and to provide some basic needs for the family for the items that were lost, and that was placed into a specific trust fund as well. So there are mechanisms in place to handle those kinds of things. And that money all went to what it was given for.
My comment is just a typo. The second line that starts with restricted gifts, behind the city council, there's just an orphan eye sticking
Yeah,
out there.
that's just a keystroke.
Yeah, so just take it out.
Little finger got heavy or something.
So will the motion include correcting that then?
Correct. I've already done it here on this copy.
If I would like to weigh in on this, if I could, there, these perpetual, the gifts that we give, they continue and continue and continue, and there's no end use for that to continue. Then the city has to maintain these assets or gifts of money or stocks or bonds, and there's no place for them to go. I think there should be some sort of a mechanism that will allow us to bring this to closure if it is not used in a certain amount of time, whether it be into a fund or a perpetual fund of some type that could be used for certain things that the city may have to do.
I think, are you speaking about, that would be a restricted fund though, wouldn't it? If it had a designated?
Not necessarily. I
Okay.
don't think it would be a restricted fund. It would just be, there's, say somebody decides that they want to give $2,000 or $4,000 to something that we have put together, and it's used up to say $100 or so, and then the need for this perpetuation of the fund ceases, then the amount of bookkeeping that would be required to keep custody of this would be detrimental to the city's need.
Certainly. David, if I might address that. So I think part of the idea is that if there are restricted gifts that are proposed, which we appreciate, but you all would be able to review those, and you could establish that, hey, if it gets down to either it's going to end or that the balance gets to be so low that you would include an authority for you all to close out that particular item. Did you concur with that, David?
Yes.
No.
That's the whole idea. An unrestricted gift is where we just get a check in the mail for $10,000 and say, this is for the city of Bethany. We can do anything we want to with that. But if somebody says, I want this to be used to resurface Rockwell, you could say, all right, we'll take it, but, we're going to give it back to you in 5 years if it's not done.
Well, or we're going to transfer it to some other fund.
Well, they may not choose for you to do that. If they put a restriction on it, it's up to you whether to accept that restriction or not. I mean, if they give you a restricted gift, you either have to accept it under those restrictions or reject it.
Well, that makes it very difficult on the people that are accepting it also, because they may know that after 15 or after the project is completed, everything is said and done, there's 29 cents left in the account. And do we ask our treasurer and our not our treasurer, but our financial advisor, financial department, to maintain the books on this account?
I guess what I might suggest is that when the restricted gift is offered, council could say, we'd love to do it, we'd love to do that project, but with a couple of conditions. If the balance gets down so low, we want to have the authority to be able to close that out at that time. And so I think maybe it could be a negotiated acceptance where if the other party agrees and we have the terms like you're suggesting. Because you are right, we don't want to have something that's out there for that kind of balance for forever.
I've seen that happen before.
Right.
And it's a nightmare for an accountant.
Mhm.
He's got to keep a page and a book and everything together. And they get lost and then somebody says something and it gets not very pleasant after
Mhm.
that.
Right.
And I've got one other question. you know, we have our museum behind us here, and there's certain things in there that, you know, grow out of need. But there's been nothing said about that. Do you think that we should have something in there that a person could come up, say, give them a year or so, and allow them to make a statement on what they want done with the product after its use is used?
You're speaking of the things that have been put in here at City Hall that.
There's pictures in there, there's,
That's a good point.
there's statements.
Are those gifts to the city? Were they originally? Do they
were
still,
gifts to the city, yes.
so they don't belong to the person who donated them anymore?
Yes.
They belong to the city. Many of the city archives are located in the archives at SNU because they were in this room in just a pile on the floor, and we took them over there. They still belong to the city, but they're at the archives at SNU to be preserved.
That would be.
So they could be
purely
added to
acceptable.
that if they were no longer needed here.
Because their archives are well taken care of. They have a person who is totally in charge of that. I don't know whether we have anybody that's in charge of our museum here or at all.
I'm not.
Do we?
Maybe it's assistant city manager. Okay.
No, we don't have it's currently taking care of that.
That was the reason we took them to SNU archives. They were just piled on the floor.
I know the city talked about, I think we had someone that wanted to put in a museum at the old police station maybe. And I think the subject matter of the city museum at that time came up. You had to be careful about museums and the perpetualness of them.
Right.
They don't always survive. So I don't. So we need to make. Do we need to make any adjustments to this to bring it to the table for a vote, or?
I think operationally, we probably want to discourage restricted gifts, but if somebody insists on giving it for a purpose, then you need to consider it. But restricted gifts can come back to haunt you, as you've already found out.
The most recent example I can think of is the monument at the police station, and that was all done by donated funds, I believe.
And they donated money to maintain it. So.
But they
that's-
didn't want that spent on fixing potholes on
No,
36th
no.
Street either.
Right.
So it was a restricted gift for sure.
Anybody else? Okay, the agenda item is for approval of the resolution 1422, adopting a policy concerning the acceptance of gifts and donations. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Please cast your votes.
Is that with the correction?
Oh, we do need to have a correction on
Yeah,
the
it's
third
just
paragraph
It's just a
typo.
errant keystroke. We'll take care of that.
Okay, please cast your votes. Okay, next item on agenda is item number 4, approval of resolution number 1423, creating a park and tree advisory board, establishing methods of appointment of members to the board, providing for the functions of the board. Mr. Cox?
Very good, thank you. This item is being proposed tonight for a couple of purposes. One is to enhance and to facilitate more community involvement in the city of Bethany, and also to hopefully tap into some ingenious and some creative minds that are out there that have passion for parks and for arbor and to making not only our parks beautiful but our community beautiful. There may be opportunities for them to take a look at our parks and to assess the usage of them, perhaps put together a master plan even perhaps that could be used by this council and by the city for years to come. And also to provide a sounding board for ideas on future use as well. And I was going to also, one more quick thing. The resolution has been proposed as the customary appointing mechanism, but I have received feedback from the mayor who thought that was maybe, there might be better ways to do that than him appointing all of them. And I have heard from a couple of you as well that maybe you might have an interest in doing that differently as well.
But you're speaking specifically of the second paragraph in this proposal.
Yes, sir.
I was going to address that, but I see the mayor has addressed it.
Yes.
And I can see where it would be maybe a possible hazard, not a hazard, but just one more thing.
Use your mic.
Mike, my mic is on, guys. Maybe a hazard or possibly something that he doesn't want to take under his purview.
Right. And that's what he said to me, that it probably would be just better for folks to come up with ideas, suggestions for it, and just nominate as either a group or by wards. Right.
My question when I saw this was that most cities have parks and recreation departments or park and recreation advisory boards, and I'd never heard of a park and tree board, so I didn't know where that came from. But we do have a swimming pool that I think can probably have some suggestions for improvement. And I know people have asked me about splash pads and, disc golf and things like that, that I don't know that they would be the responsibility of a park and tree advisory board, but if it was park and recreation, then it could be a broader purpose. And I was just suggesting that we might change the title and the purview of this board.
And broaden it a bit to include
Yeah, I think
recreational facilities.
Right. Or just recreation, and then it could be facilities or uses. It could be events, I guess.
Good point.
Festivals or whatever.
And they would also be addressing such things as the pool area.
Yes.
And would this board replace our park committee that we now have?
No, that's a council board. I'm not sure how often the committee does meet. I think that, again, the idea is that this would be kind of a grassroots type of thing where ideas are coming up from the public and vice versa. It's an opportunity for you all to get a dialogue with people about ideas going on with our parks. I might throw out, I like the idea of the recreation and just open to whatever you all think would be a great way to enhance this. But also arbor, canopies on a community are important, and sometimes it kind of gets lost or forgotten because we just have trees everywhere. But if you start looking at it, you look at the Dutch elm disease, which kind of wiped out a number of trees years ago, and then there's and I'm drawing a blank at the moment, I should have written it down, but there's another insect that is making its way into the Midwest. It's past Missouri now, and it's kind of headed this way, and that's creating a bit of a concern as well. And so many communities in the Midwest are now in the process of proactively planting new trees in advance of a lot of the older trees dying when that insect reaches here. And we have ice storms.
I did discuss this with the mayor when he told me he wouldn't be here tonight. And a couple of things that we talked about, rather than his appointment or the mayor's appointment, would have been possibly one appointment from each of the wards and then the mayor appointing one, or possibly each one of the council members appointing, which would give us 7 or 8 if the mayor also appointed. So those were just a couple of ideas that were thrown out as to, he was not privy, I guess is a good word to say, for him to have to be appointing everybody. So I don't think I would be either. So I think that's something that we maybe will want to address.
Your planning commission, 2 members are appointed from each ward, and then the mayor appoints an at-large member. That's how it works, so.
But that keeps every board with 9 people, which
Yeah,
is sometimes hard to
that's right.
populate.
this proposes 7.
If we did say 5, then there could be 1 from each ward and 1 from the mayor. 7 would be a little uneven.
Ms. Harris, I think you have a very good idea there, that
Which one?
it gets less cumbersome with 5
Yeah.
than it does
5
with
can meet.
9.
We should get more input with 9 or 8.
Well, I don't know.
More
It
ideas.
Depends on the people that we appoint, if they're out proactively working to get resolutions.
True.
Yeah, hopefully they would solicit input from their friends and neighbors and so forth. Back to the tree, having a park and, say, recreation advisory board, and then also having a council, is it a committee? What is the council park group? I don't think it has met in a long time. It would seem we wouldn't need both, an advisory board of citizens and a committee of the council, which hasn't met in forever, probably.
Your park committee, and Randy and Kathy, you've been on this council longer than I and Mr. Shirey, but I think the park committee's primary goals of recent, and this is before Mr. Ray passed away, was looking at the parks, looking at the location, looking at the upkeep and playground equipment that needed to be done, or replaced or repaired or whatever, and there was quite a bit of work done on some of the parks. I would be inclined to think that that park committee and our other committees that we have that are comprised of council members, that yes, needs to be updated, terribly so, which hopefully after the election that'll be something that'll get done. But I think that the council needs to have those committees to work with our staff in making recommendations. But now we have a new city manager. He may not agree with that, so I'd like your input on that.
You know, maybe if the committee hasn't been active for a while, maybe we don't tinker with that committee for now. We could just let this new committee get going and see how they do, and then decide if there is still a need for the council committee, or maybe there isn't a need, and you could maybe decide that down the road and
Sure.
see how this group gets going.
You wouldn't want them to be in conflict over a decision. That's what I'm thinking. They need to have a reporting mechanism, but you wouldn't want the council committee to take one stand and the citizen committee to take another stand.
And I think one of the thought I have on that is that when you have a citizen committee, you want to, staff will support it, and we'll attend their meetings and help them with whatever they need, and taking minutes and make sure their meetings are posted properly. But you kind of want them to be unfettered, so they can go out and be creative and think outside the box and bring ideas to you all. And you're the ultimate decision makers. Nothing is changing that. But you can let them vet it, and then they can come to you and defend their ideas again, and you all can vet the ideas again. I think that's probably where the strength of having citizen committees lies.
On the bullet points that are listed on that first page, if you could expound on those bullet points a little bit?
Oh, we pulled this from the comp plan, and so This was just included as ideas that they could do, the new park categories. So I think if I wasn't here during those conversations, but what I gathered from that is, either one, you have the high-use ones, the low-use ones, or how they're even used is another way they could potentially be categorized. Partnering opportunities, if I don't know, the Boy Scouts wants to come in and do a cleanup on an afternoon, I'm just using that as an example, that could augment
We could
city
welcome
services.
that,
We
We could do
could.
that.
And then Future Park, honestly, I wasn't part of that conversation. I'm not sure what all that entailed. And then, but future equipment, I think, is essential. If you all have driven around and looked at our parks, that's another area of desperate attention is our parks equipment that we have in there, especially a few of them. So,
I remember a conversation that all parks did not need to be equal. And I think in the past that maybe if, we bought 3 slide sets then, or 5 slide sets or whatever, it's like every park got one or something. And so there was a conversation of neighborhood parks and more regional parks. And, some of them might be something like a disc golf park or a dog park or have different specified uses rather than all of them being the same. And then there was an area that was designated as Future Park because there wasn't one within a mile and a half or something.
oh, okay.
So that's just from memory.
I have to share one more thing with you all. This last week, it was kind of an accident. Linda Warner, my assistant, was showing me an area up by where my office is located. It's a storage area, and sitting there were these posters, and I asked her, "What are these?" And she said, "Oh, there's something old." And so we got to looking at these posters. I have three of the, I think 8 or 9 in my office now. I was just so intrigued. I think they were from the late 1980s, although I couldn't find a date on them. And they showed fountains in Eldon Lyon Park, and they called it Fountain Park, I believe it was. I don't know if you all have ever heard anything like that, but it's interesting how ideas come back around maybe time and again. And so if you all are ever around and like to pop up to my office, I'd love to show them to you. I think it was concept.
Okay. Anybody else?
The things I've heard that need to be addressed, and I think staff needs some guidance on this. I think, if I heard correctly, you want to change the name of it to the Parks, Recreation, and Tree Advisory Board. That's what I heard said. And then in terms of how many members and how they're appointed, I need direction on that too. So maybe you could resolve that, and then we could bring it back to you next time.
On the name, you said Park and Recreation, not Park Recreation and Arbor.
I
You
said Parks,
mentioned
Recreation,
Okay.
and Tree Board.
Okay.
I don't know.
Are we seeing people recommending, I think we need another tree on such and so block, or?
He was saying being proactive for the diseases that are coming our way. And that has happened.
So just staying ahead in
Yeah, it's just
general.
that committee, if we get infested, then they could begin to decide where we might need to start. I mean, that's how I envision it. That's not my definition.
There are
So
some
it would be any
grant,
public properties that might need trees.
Yes, ma'am. And-
We're
and,
not
you know,
looking at giving away trees like they sometimes do in cities, or,
I don't think that's contemplated yet, although I don't know, would we be okay with if they wish to do that, maybe? If they tapped into the Arbor Day Foundation and maybe obtain trees. I know that is done, and I think there's even a picture of it, Arbor Day.
yeah, I've
Illness.
been in cities that have done that, and
Yeah.
that can be successful.
there are some funds out there for
Mm-hmm.
that.
Right.
Oklahoma City Community Foundation
Maybe
does some of it.
Redbud giveaways and things like
Arbor,
that.
Arbor Society does, so I think that's the idea, is to maybe just have that there for something they consider.
And the Boys Foundation funds that sort of thing.
Oh, good.
But too, the leaving the trees in there, it kind of opens it up to those who want to adopt a tree, maybe a part of the Route 66 highway, or adopt a section of those and take care of those trees for us. And I know that Eldon Lion Park in particular, and some of the others who border along highline wires, there's some really proactive things that we need to be doing possibly before the next ice storm. And so leaving that tree, park, recreation, and tree board just invites a proactive stance on those, on trees.
We have,
in particular.
we have quite a few trees that look like field goal posts instead of trees, unfortunately. So, and I think having some feedback on those kinds of things is I would think would be great to have from the committee.
So maybe Parks, Trees, and Recreation Advisory Board? It's kind of long, but it gets them all in.
Yeah.
Be the PRT advisory board.
Oh, you want Recreation before Trees? Okay.
Alphabetical.
PTR.
Well, Parks and Recreation, I mean, it kind of flows.
Whatever you all think.
Yeah.
I have a procedural question for David. David, could they just make a motion amending this and go
They
ahead and-
could, if there's a consensus on how many members and how to appoint them.
I suggest 5. And then we could ask for volunteers of people who might be interested.
They're all going to be volunteers.
Yeah.
So one from each ward and a mayor appointed.
If you wanted to approve it with those amendments, you certainly could do it tonight. And I can make those changes after the fact and see that you get a copy of it as amended.
Was there a reason for 7? Was there any kind of a,
I think it was just seemed like a number. I don't know that necessarily. I could see it going both ways. I mean, 5 is you kind of maybe get a little more to the point maybe, but 7 sometimes you get more feedback, and I think either way is okay.
Well,
I think
if one
9
person was appointing 7, then 7 might work. But if we had to come up with 7 among the 9 of us, it's not going to work.
Another issue that raises is if Ward 1 wanted a particular person, what if the council didn't approve of that person? Should that be the option, or should the ward council member make the decision and that be final?
If they're going to be appointed by
That's the question.
Affirmed.
Oh, now we're like the Supreme Court.
Yeah, that's just a question. I don't have any preference on one way or the other.
I've got opinions, but I may not approve anybody that's gonna be on for more than 1, they're just not there. But I think fellow council members understand that if a person from that particular county, those council members from that particular ward want those people placed on a board, they want them placed on a board.
Also, there's nothing on here about terms. And I don't,
That's good.
we might want to rotate the terms so there's some continuity, or have 3-year terms.
And maybe staggered 3-year
Stagger
terms.
them, or, yeah.
So when we if this is approved, we could bring back a slate and you all could vote and who to put into, if someone's appointed to a 3-year term, a 2-year term, 1-year term.
Sometimes they just draw straws at their first
Yeah,
meeting.
you could do that too.
Just like the other
Yeah.
facility. I'm kind of in agreement with Kathy to have more than 5. But how do you get 7 out of 9 people?
You don't get
And
7 out of
is
9.
9 really too many?
No.
And that's a question that I have, especially if you're going to be staggering the terms.
And maybe you could have they could be operational at a minimum of 5, and you could have a couple vacancies until you fill those, maybe.
we could, oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's it.
I was just going to say that I was just going to say that Attorney Davis mentioned, going ahead like we do with the planning and zoning and, just kind of keep it the same as we do appointing other boards. So, that way we'd have continuity in the way we do things.
And if Jeff and Shirey don't agree on the same person, we'll let them fight it out.
Well, that would,
Excuse me.
that would be two from each ward. That would be two from each ward. So, and one from the mayor.
So that would be 9.
Right. That's how we,
You know, with the
Or
5-member
currently.
board, you lose one of them. It's an impetus for us to appoint somebody new. If we've got somebody sitting there, we just kind of drag our heels because you can go back and look at some of the things that we do on the 9-member boards.
One
And
term.
they run for years or whatever.
Recognizing
those-
this is just an advisory board, they're not gonna be making decisions that are monetary, binding, or anything, so, I guess my thought is, rather than having staggered terms, why not, these are volunteers that are giving their time, why not just give them an indefinite term and provide you can remove them at will?
Because then you drop
And
hard
then,
feelings.
that way
when
you don't have to worry about, just like the committees right now, we've got, they haven't been replaced for 3 years, so, and we've got vacancies on the planning commission, the board of adjustment, that have been there for a long time, so my thought is just give it an indefinite term, and if somebody you don't like, get rid of them, and if you need another one,
Well,
find a new one.
and
It's
that's
hard
how
when
we
you're
do it.
on a board and you think, I'd really like to get off this, but I don't want them to think I don't like them anymore. Or when you're sitting there thinking, we need to get rid of that person, but I don't want to hurt their feelings. If there is a term limit or an end of term, then there's a decision point where you can bring on new blood or the new person who has taken, when I leave, the person who takes my place might want to appoint someone else, and they're stuck with whoever I appointed for an indefinite time, so it's just gets rid of the awkwardness.
It does.
I'm wondering if we should go ahead and send this back to staff. and
We
let them-
need some guidance, though, otherwise, we're gonna be making a decision.
Yeah.
We need to know what you want.
Yeah,
If-
that's true.
Well, do you
It
want
would be
to do
nice to,
9?
I'm sorry.
I said, do you want to do 9?
I think 9 is better than 0.
Yeah.
And so 7 is probably preferable to 9, but it then becomes hard. I want to throw out a couple ideas to you all. I do, David, I hope it's okay if we agree to disagree on this one point. I think it is better to have clear terms so they know when they're going off, and then they can choose not to re-up or whatever. And then you all, it's also kind of awkward too if you have someone that's maybe not performing and you all would like to make a change, and that gives you an opportunity to be able to do that. The other thing is, I may be way out of school, and I apologize if I am, but I think it would be nice if we didn't worry so much about wards sometimes, and we just got the 5 best people in the whole community of Bethany that's going to look out for the whole community, and not just this is my little territory that I'm trying to help out. And so, if you kind of think of it from that standpoint, then 7 really shouldn't be a problem, and just get the 7 best you can find. And
I really like that, because then you're not saying, well, why did my ward not get a new playground set and your ward did? So it's less turfy.
In
I think
support
7.
of what J.D. just said, there's a landscape architect that has shown an interest in the past in Bethany. He's done a lot of work for the Children's Center. That's Brian Doherty. And, he's not a resident of Bethany, but, if he wanted to serve on this, I think he'd be a great addition. So, I think, he might not fit your ward parameters either.
He
These are
also-
So we could
volunteers.
have-
These
so
are
we-
vol- I'm sorry. go
So
ahead.
we could appoint people outside the city of Bethany then.
That's certainly an option.
I think it would be advantageous to the committee if they were, the best in their field.
His
Well,
might have a conflict of interest because he's the person in charge of the Boys Treat Fund where we might get
Yeah,
funds.
I was just thinking out loud as
Yeah,
that's an example.
but that's a good thought.
And also, we do need to consider a budgetary number for this committee, and the council needs to be, here's our number, but yet if there are some fantastic ideas that need to be implemented, we either have to get a time frame for those numbers or prioritize the projects. And, I mean, there's budget numbers in there that need to be established, but yet flexible.
I get,
Right.
yeah, that would be what my thought would be, and we do have a budget for this year, and I mean, maybe they have influence over you all or over us on, hey, we need to really go do X right away within our budget, and then if they think we need to do Y, then we could consider that for the next year's budget. So, yeah, I think so.
I like I think having the number 7 with term limits. I mean, that would be my suggestion. Of course.
I'll second that.
So that's a motion.
Yeah. Well, right now, we're just drafting a new version, right?
And may I ask it, and does that also include in the park, recreation and tree, the change of name?
Yes.
Whatever order they go in.
Those two
What was what was the motion, 9?
7.
7.
With term limits.
3-year terms?
Sometimes the way that is handled is that your first meeting, with 7 people, a couple of them would have 1-year terms, and a couple would have 2-year terms, and a couple would have 3-year terms. And then after, or however it works out, and then after that, they're always 3 years. So the person who had 1 year could be reelected the next year, reappointed.
Very good.
How about the limit of the term?
I'd say 3 years, but then they rotate.
Very good.
And appointed by the entire council with no ward reference, is that the idea?
That's fine with me.
And hopefully, some people would show their interest, so we wouldn't be going out seeing who had the prettiest lawns or something.
Also, I would like to have in the motion, or if it needs to be in the motion, to be able to appoint people outside the city limits of the city of Bethany.
You do want to?
With these changes, I would prefer that you table this until your next meeting and let me prepare these changes and give you an opportunity to look at them rather than trying to vote on that tonight. There
That's
are
fine.
several changes we've made here.
I'll withdraw my motion.
And I'm assuming there will be a mechanism in which the members could retire or otherwise
Just quit coming.
resign
Volunteer.
their post if they choose to.
Otherwise, they're making a restricted donation for forever. Poor Tippy.
Okay, so this item will be tabled until the staff has a chance to rework it.
I do think, just one more thing, I do think that people who are outside the district should have that advisory capacity because of their expertise.
Yes.
Because otherwise, they're spending our city's money, so.
That'll be a council decision anyway, because you're going to appoint them. If you don't think they have the right to be there, you wouldn't appoint them, I assume.
Well, if I might make a suggestion that persons that want to be on this board, since it's going to be a round-robin board, submit a written application with their background, any information that might be pertinent to that, and allow the council to have a look at that before we vote for them.
Actually, we could do that for all of the committees and so forth that come after March, April, right? Will there be others?
Other-
Are there other citizen boards? I mean, we'll have people
Don't we
that
have a
might
library
be
board?
interested in, well, except it's the Metropolitan Library System.
No, I mean, our board that we put together to form
Oh.
our new library.
The city council has a library committee.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. And I never saw a person that went on there.
It's
So I
created
think,
by
I mean,
ordinance.
You know, what I'm saying is, the people that sit behind this desk up here should be allowed to have an idea of who are on these boards before we vote for them.
That's right.
Yeah, you should see the applications. I agree with that.
But isn't there now a TIF board? Or is one being put together?
There's one being put together, although I don't have an update on where that stands. right
What was that?
The TIF board.
TIF.
Actually, you only have 2 members that you appoint to the board. You appointed
John Aaron.
Mr. Carlson from the Planning Commission and John
Yeah.
from the City Council. The rest are other entities. Or 3 more that are appointed by the remaining members of the committee. City does not have a majority on the board.
So in the future, for where we're soliciting people who might be interested in serving on boards, we could have something on the webpage or wherever that people could let us know of their interests. That's all I'm
Absolutely.
saying.
I think that's essential that we not only, and I'm going to report on this in a little while on our communication efforts, what we're kind of working on right now, but not only should we communicate better what our openings and vacancies are on these, but then you really should have an application that they fill out and just at the very least what their background is and why they'd like to be on the particular board. I think that's essential for you all to have that.
And since we're asking for people to come in from outside the city, I think an address would be very, very good on all of those applications. So we don't get somebody from Tishomingo.
Anything else? If not, we'll move on to item number 5, which can, executive session to discuss a pending claim concerning damage to excavator equipment rented from Hertz for use in disposal of ice storm debris at Eldon Lyon Park. I'm going to refer this to Mr. Davis.
I have set this item up for an executive session if you so choose and vote to go into executive session. However, I will tell you publicly, on the Bethany Public Works Authority agenda, there is an item to approve a payment of $120,000 as a settlement of that claim. And if you want to discuss the details, I would recommend that you go into executive session. If you don't, this item could just be passed and you'll come to that payment item under the Bethany Public Works Authority. If you recall, the original claim was $189,000 and some change.
Does anyone
like
wish
to-
to go to executive session?
I would like to make a motion for executive session.
You move? That was a motion.
Yes.
And second? Call again for a second. Motion's failed. I do need to go back to item, okay, do you need a motion for this?
No, you can just pass over that item.
Okay, I
Since
need
there
to
was
go
no-
back.
Since there was no motion to go into executive session, that item can be considered.
Okay, I need to go back, I think, to item number 4 and ask for a motion to table this item. Second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Okay. Item number 6 is the city attorney's report. David?
My items were listed on the agenda.
City Manager's report. In 1 second.
Pardon?
In 1 second.
In 1 second, yes. I do have a few things again this evening for you. First, a few housekeeping items. The library project continues to run on schedule as well as on budget. We do, as we could continue to move into the project, there will be some tweaking from where items will be moved between various line items, and we've been working on that. The project called for the payment of $669,277 from the Metropolitan Library System to go toward the design fees. This week we did receive that check for $669,277. So it's nice to have that in place. I know Councilmember Larson has put in a lot of work on this project. The next big item that's coming up is on November the 22nd. The design development is due, and that will include our first real good cost estimate on the project. One more quick thing. I'd reported earlier that separating the demolition from the rest of the project appeared that it would maybe save us time and money. But as the project has continued to progress, the timeline now looks like maybe that won't save us any significant time, and it may not save us money either. So I just wanted to kind of give you a little heads up that question is kind of going on at the moment. I continue to meet with Todd on almost a daily basis. The IT project is an internal project I mentioned before. We are now out for request for qualifications for a vendor to provide IT services. You might recall in the budget we had budgeted for a full-time person to do IT services, but it looks like contracting that out would be probably a better cost benefit for our organization to do it that way. Also, our website rollout was one more thing I wanted to touch base upon with you. Steve Harsman and I have been interviewing media outreach specialist applicants. Yesterday and today we've had 5 applicants, and all 5 were outstanding. And it's really the first time in my career that I've had 5 that have been this good, this close. Any of the 5 would be great for our organization. So it's great to have a tough decision to make. Wanted to also brief you on Public Works. We have some things going on there that I need to share. First of all, unfortunately, we have had yet another occasion where we've had some digging and some work done without permits. And I just want to share this with you that we are pursuing it. We received reports of this going on, and I don't want to prejudge the outcome, but the outcome, however, could end in tickets being issued. I want to give you a heads up. You know, we don't get involved when speeding tickets are issued or anything of the like, and this would be another one of those that I want to be hands off and let staff handle it as appropriate. But it does mark the kind of a little bit of a changing of the tide. I don't know that tickets have been issued any time in recent years, and just in case you get a phone call, I wanted you to have a heads up on that. If the ticket is issued, it would be appropriate, in my opinion. We also are engaged right now actively in the replacement of faded street signs. You may have seen them around. We're focusing first on the downtown area, and then we're going to kind of branch out from there. The other area I wanted to brief you on in Public Works, as I like to keep in front of you, the alignment of our organization needs to be able to accomplish a number of Public Works types of activities, but we also have some challenges. One of the most forefront of those challenges is our inability currently to be able to clean our own streets. Our street sweeper is offline and is irreparable, and so I have asked staff to do cost estimates on the replacement of a street sweeper. We did get a state bid number from them. We're going to look at maybe an opportunity for possibly a used one might be another option, but we'll keep checking on that. A new one, I just want to get it out there, is over $225,000. It's a lot of money, but I don't know how we run a city and we don't keep our streets clean at the same time. So kind of tough decisions. Doing street projects are expensive, but once you have them, you keep running, and hopefully we keep our community or get our community looking nice and keep the streets clean. But we'll bring that back to you later. Also, this past week, couple of weeks, I've been busy having a number of meetings. I met with the chief engineer of the Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality. Also, I attended a Mid-Sized Cities Coalition meeting in the tradition of John Schugert. I am now the secretary-treasurer of that esteemed organization. So not sure how that worked, but also, I have visited with some of our attorneys that are representing us in the contamination lawsuit to clean our water that we have that's been polluted, and then not our drinking water, but because we make sure that it's not our drinking water is clean, but the water that is outside of that. And then also, I had an amazing opportunity to tour the Children's Center, and that was more of a wonderful experience than it was just taking a tour. And so if anybody hasn't gotten an opportunity to go to that facility, I know I'm the new guy on the block, but it was wonderful, and it was very enlightening, and had a great experience with that. Our comp plan, a couple quick things on our comp plan. Our staff, our department heads, department directors, we had a tactical review of all 49 of the items that are identified in the comp plan. We went through all of those and identified which things the city staff, we felt city staff could do, what departments would head those up, and excuse me, I'm sorry, and then also began identifying potential time frame for the accomplishment of those items. The next step then will be for our steering committee, and Gilbert Carlson is here this evening, for them to meet. I believe it's December the 2nd is the scheduled date for that meeting. We'll double check that date. But for them to meet, go through that same list of 49 and being able to see the comments that staff has provided, and for them to be able to identify maybe they think there's someone else also that might be interested in working on that, or might be interested in a partnership, or it might be something that's kind of outside the purview of the city and might be something that another group could champion for us. So I think that'll be a great and useful exercise to go through as far as the next steps on implementation of that. Code enforcement, I reported before, the last meeting was November 1, and it has started in earnest and continues to go. I received a report just yesterday of ongoing activity, and I anticipate next week being an even busier week than the prior 2 weeks. And as I mentioned before, we're giving the polite warnings the first time around, but if they're not taken care of, then tickets will probably be issued. So heads up on that as well. Hopefully, I've received very positive reports from the police department that most, if not all, have complied voluntarily, which is what our goal is anyway. Hey, did you know? And please correct this. So that is going. A few initiatives that we have going on. Public relations, I just spoke about a moment ago, and our efforts to hire someone that will be outstanding for us and communicating our message and our vision of what we're trying to accomplish, both internally as well as externally to the world, and what is that message we wish to communicate to the world. Economic development is another initiative that I'm beginning to ramp up now. I attended the Leadership Northwest class the other day, last week, and it was focused on economic development. So I made a few connections at that. Pat is here this evening. It was at their location, and appreciate your hospitality at that meeting, Pat, and put us in connection with some of the folks that are involved in economic development here in Oklahoma. There are nuances from state to state, so I'm working on educating myself on those nuances. And then also this Friday, I have almost a half-day meeting at the Center for Economic Development Law in Oklahoma City, that those folks have been kind of responsible for a lot of the projects that Oklahoma City has been successfully implementing. So I'm really looking forward to that. Another thing I want to do, I want to kind of plug and embarrass a couple of our folks maybe, or try to, that are here on this board this evening. I also attended the Bethany Improvement Foundation meeting this last week. And I think before I shared with you a few observations on, we have a lot of pluses going on for us, but we have a few challenges though too. And one of the things I have worried about, concerned about is a better word, is our lack of a per se economic development group for Bethany, a lack of chamber-driven activities for Bethany specifically. We have more broad-based kinds of groups. But I attended the BIF organization. Our council member, Arleta Harris, was one of the co-founders of that organization. And what an asset for our community. These folks, I attended this meeting, and also I believe Randy Lenser is also a member of this board. I attended their meeting, and they shared with me that not only is their goal the growth and development of our community, but they wish to stand shoulder to shoulder with us in the implementation of our comprehensive plan. They want to help to be an engine behind making sure that it is accomplished and successful. And that's wonderful to have those kind of partnerships. And that brings me to probably the biggest thing that I see that we can be doing. There's some other initiatives I'll cover later that are coming down the pike, but that real key thing is the development of or enhancement of strategic alliances in the community. I mentioned the Children's Hospital, and it's a crown jewel of ours, as is SNU and our SCU, two universities, our banking institutions wish to stand with us as well. One of the things I would like to begin doing in January is having key stakeholder meetings with the CEOs of some of these organizations, sitting down once a month, doing roundtables, talking about things that are going on in each of our organizations, but then also in our overall community and where we're going and how we're going to best get there. And I think I've mentioned to you all too, I'd like to take a group of people and do a tour in Oklahoma sometime after the first of the year as well, and go tour some other communities that we view as being economically successful, and finding out firsthand what their stories have been and some of the strategies that they've employed to reach where they currently are. And then, as I've experienced, the trip there and the trip back then would be filled with brainstorming and thinking about what we might be able to do here. I also wanted to share with you, I have approached the leadership of SNU and with the idea of building the best possible relationship that I can with that entity. I had not yet met the president of SNU, Dr. Gresham. I was able to accomplish that yesterday. I also met with one of the vice presidents, Scott Strawn, just today, and we began discussing relationships that are known as town and gown. I know firsthand from friends that I have in the city management field where cities and universities have, I keep using the words shoulder to shoulder, but stood together for the betterment of the whole community. And so I would love to see us, if we're not already, but I would love to see us get to that point, and I would like to develop those relationships myself. So I am working on that. We talked about earlier tapping into our community, people involved in our community, enhancing volunteerism, hopefully bolstering quality of life in our community. And we talked about the Park and Tree Board. Hopefully we'll get that wrapped up by the next meeting. You also asked Dr. Harris about other committees. You know, I could see us potentially, I'm reaching out now to the Retired Senior Volunteer Program of Greater Oklahoma City and try to set up a meeting here relatively soon for me to go see their operations and how they operate and see if they might be able to have a presence here in Bethany. I understand that they don't currently have one. So they're already up and running. We don't need to recreate the wheel here, but if we can tap into their resources, I think that would be beneficial. And I could see down the pike perhaps an arts and culture board even being established that would go to providing advisement on what kinds of sculptures and art that we have throughout our community and in our downtown area. I mentioned Public Works and needing to align Public Works to be able to accomplish these goals and visions that we have set forth ahead of us. And so I'm continuing to work on our organizational. I keep bringing this up because it will come, but I want to keep it in front of you, though, too, so it's not a surprise when it does come. So that's coming. And the final thing is the Christmas lighting downtown is this Friday. So thank you very much, and I'm sorry I went so long.
No problem. Council members' announcements, comments, and proposals. Ms. Harris, would you like to start?
Sure. Go, JD, go. That's great. Marla Mercer Cole is the RSVP person here.
Oh.
And that's at Mercer Adams.
Could you repeat the name?
Marla Mercer Cole, C-O-L-E. And she's at Mercer Adams. And I know she's kind of our community coordinator for RSVP. Also, the Academy of Senior Professionals at SNU. It's a community group, though, and they work through RSVP. So there are already some people here doing RSVP. I'm so excited about all the stuff you were saying. I'm just sitting here going, oh, 5 years from now, I was hoping we could get to that, and here we are. So the faded street signs have been driving me nuts since I got here, so I'm so glad you're doing that. And I personally hope that our new public information person or whoever's in charge could also work on redoing our logo, our brand. I mean, it's pretty out of date, and so that might be another opportunity. And I think at one point those signs were on the street signs, so maybe that can work together. But no, this is exciting, so just keep at it. Sounds good.
Ms. Holloway?
Thank you. I also just would like to reiterate what Councilmember Harris has stated. I'm very excited to have JD here. I think we can all see that he's very busy and he's moving forward in a very positive way, and I appreciate that very much. And I just want to reiterate what City Manager Cox stated and ask everybody to be downtown Friday, if you can, for the Downtown Bethany Christmas event. It's from 5 to 8 p.m., and I look forward to seeing people there.
Mr. Lester?
Thank you, ma'am. JD, this is your first Christmas here in Bethany, and this is one of those events where you just relax and bring the family and have a great time and enjoy the people of Bethany. And that's what's so fantastic about this event, is that you just enjoy the evening, whether it's 20 degrees out or whether it's 70. This is one of those evenings where you just sit back and relax and think how blessed we are to be in Bethany. So I hope you and Miss Tanya we'll all meet down there together, and all of us, and have a great time. Many kids are out there having a great time, and I understand the electrical has been upgraded a little bit. So we used to have to yell across 39th Street, 6 lanes of traffic, and you could barely hear the countdown from over there, and one person on the other side, whoever was chosen, would flip a breaker and light the tree down. But we're a little bit more sophisticated than that this year, so that's been updated last week, and it's a real tree, not anyway, not an attempt at one. But that is a fantastic event and time to go downtown and enjoy our families. The time has come for me is personally to step back away from some of my involvements, and this being one of them. So I just want to let the council know that I will not be filing for this seat for reelection. But I'm confident in whoever is elected from Ward 1 that they will have a wonderful experience in this endeavor. It's an opportunity that many people will enjoy. Some people will not enjoy it, but it's a fantastic opportunity. And in saying all that, the filing date for those who are interested will be December the 7th, 8th, and 9th. And so put that on your calendar for your consideration for that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Shirey.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Mayor, or Madam
Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
I just realized that they're going to have a real tree in Bethany. Because I had heard some things that the tree was not going up as we have had it in the past. Is this going to be a White House type tree, or is it going to be a Times Square type tree, or what?
It's within budget.
Within budget, okay, it's within a
All of the
budget
above.
tree.
All of
One
it.
of the trees that exist down there.
Yeah, one of the trees exists.
Yes.
Okay. Also, Mr. City Manager, you said somebody said something about your passing tickets out to people who are not going to be conforming to our
Yes, sir.
new drive. Could you keep city councilmen informed of what we're doing on that? Because I do not like to take cold calls from irate citizens, or which they assume they're irate, because I've heard some stories of, I've been doing this for the last 5 or 6 years, why are you coming after me now? And, also, that brings me back to the thing that I talked about last time. The problems that we're having prior to this, the problems that we had prior to this, I'm needing a little more reason to find out why we're settling the way we're settling them. I know that we just need to move ahead and get them behind us, but I need some idea of why we're doing it the way we're doing it. If I could set up an appointment with you sometime,
Certainly.
I would
Certainly.
like to, so you can
Absolutely.
explain it to me. I think it's because it's gonna be a longer period than I want to set up here tonight and
Certainly.
not get home.
Thank you.
And I certainly hate to see that there's three council members that were probably off skiing somewhere. I understand that maybe there are 2 off skiing somewhere, that
they're not three.
the snow is in the western Alps of the United States. But that's about all I have, except we're going to have an election, and the filing dates are 7th, 8th, and 9th. And I would suggest that if you really have an idea you want to file, look into it. This is a stimulating group up here, I must admit. And I have learned a lot of human nature from this experience that I've had over a period of time. And I think anybody that sits on this council has prospered more than in the years that they have been here. It's been a learning experience for every one of us. And I would like to see some, if you want to get into it, there's going to be some open seats, and it's time to get into it. Fish or cut bait. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Shirey. Mr. Knapp?
Thank you, Mrs. Vice Mayor.
Pull the
JD,
mic
of all
to you,
the,
please.
I'm sorry?
Pull the mic towards you, please.
JD, of all the things that you said, excuse me, I was only going to comment on one at this time, and that's, I worked with a group of RSVP many years ago when I was a college student in Norman, and we worked on a project pretty hard for several days. but it was a great experience, just great people that are involved with that organization. So I really hope that we can get involved with some of those members. I would just like to reiterate, I'm going to enjoy spending some time with the Downtown Merchants Friday night. I think my daughter's going to be in town for the weekend and be there for the Christmas tree lighting ceremony. Really looking forward to that. Even though it may be cold, I do have a warm coat, so don't be shy. And lastly, just happy Thanksgiving. That's coming up before we know it, before we get back together, so that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Now that the day is almost over, I want to let everybody know today was Recycle Day. Which recycling has been one of my pet peeves from the get-go. And we do have at Public Works a couple of bins, at least one bin, maybe two, one bin that collects plastic and aluminum.
What was it, aluminum?
Okay.
And we also collect metal.
And metal. Okay, so I get asked this question frequently, and I need to remember it mentally. But I also want to mention that there are other places to get rid of other things and be very prudent in your responsibility to the earth. And a couple of places that I might mention is that Home Depot will take rechargeable batteries, CFL bulbs, and old iridescent holiday lights. And everybody's throwing away the old lights, the C9s and the C7s, and going with LEDs, and you can recycle those. Best Buy takes electronics. Of course, our hazardous waste goes to Oklahoma City. You have to take the water bill with you. And I think I would like to see, and I mentioned this to staff, I'll mention it again, that when I was researching our recycling program, I couldn't find anything online. So I'm hoping that we get that online. Is it there now? It's fixed. All you got to do is ask. I tell you, this staff is so efficient. Thank you. But I think we want to, and I did call Waste Management at 5519 Northwest 4th Street, which is basically the 4th and 5th of MacArthur East, about a block. And they have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They have bins for just about everything you might want to recycle. So although the city is not in a position right now to provide that service clear across the board, there is some place that's really not that far away. So if recycling is something that you really need to be doing or want to begin doing or need a place to go, there's some places that you can use. I always look forward to the Christmas event downtown because I'm pretty sure it's going to be cool. I like that. I'm wanting some really cool weather. This hasn't been cold enough this last week, and a high of 80 tomorrow. Come on, this is November. Thanksgiving's a week away or so. So I'm ready for winter. I'm ready for Christmas. Being said, Thanksgiving's coming before we have another council meeting, and as you all know, that my heart goes out to those that we know that are around us, whether they're family or friends or neighbors. And if you know someone, we have a neighbor that lost her husband about a year ago, and she joined us last year for the holidays, and she still talks about it. My kids accepted her, my adult kids, my grandkids, even my great-grandson at the time, because she held him. It's a real special time to bring somebody else into your world when they are so alone and don't have anybody, whether it's by choice or their family's out of town or whatever the case is. So I want to encourage each and every one of you to reach out to just one person. If we all just reach out to one person, your heart will feel real good, and theirs will be overjoyed. With that said, I want to thank the council for indulging me tonight, and I made a really big mistake on an item. We did not have our financial report. So I'm going to ask that we're going to do that tonight.
It's not. What we were looking at, can you hear me? It's up to you all. If you'd like to have John give a quick report, he could, or what we were going to do is have verbal reports every quarter, but then
Okay.
have the report for you in the packet.
Okay, that's fine. Maybe I didn't mess up the bed. Okay. Does
Madam
anybody
Mayor.
need anything from our?
Could I beg just one more thing that I had
Sure.
skipped over in my notes?
Sure.
I just want to give a shout out to the ladies that work, my precinct, that worked the election last week. I've been seeing those ladies for as long as I can remember. They know my kids. One of my kids is able to vote now, and they've recognized her, though she does absentee most of the time. And they were just tireless workers and always just a joy to step in and be able to vote and just have a short conversation with them. It's just a long, hard day, and like I said, I skipped right over my note that I had written down to thank them for their service this last Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think I will say one more thing. In that Thanksgiving coming, I'm thankful for our staff. I'm thankful for those that serve our city on a volunteer basis, such as our our P&Z, our Board of Adjustment people, for our council members that have been elected, and for our great city. I am very grateful and very thankful, and I wish each of you a very blessed Thanksgiving. With that said, do we have any new business? If we don't, we'll adjourn this meeting until December 6th of 2016, and I'll now open the Bethany Public Works Authority. We have consent docket 1A, B, and C. Do any of these need to be pulled?
So moved.
If not, who moved? Shirey, do we have a second? And Harris. Okay, please cast your vote. Item number 2 is approval of payment for $120,000 to Hertz as settlement of claim for fire damage excavator. Do I have such a motion?
I move approval.
Second?
I'd like to add to that, the settlement also includes Hertz keeping the carcass of the burned out excavator, so that's also included.
And thank you.
At our museum?
Thank you for the work you did on that.
Sure.
If you please cast your votes, please. Do we have any new business? If not, we're adjourned until December 6, 2016, and I now open the Bethany Hospital Trust consent docket number 1A, B, and C. Do any of these need to be pulled? Second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Will there be new business before the Bethany Hospital Trust? If not, we'll adjourn until December 6, 2016, and I now open the Bethany Development Authority consent dockets 1A, B, and C. Do any of these need to be moved?
I move approval.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Do we have any new business before the Bethany Development Authority? If not, we'll adjourn until December 6, 2016, and that's the end of tonight.